Today's story I'm sharing is insane. It's actually a historical event that genuinely happened, but you won't believe it. Like, the stuff that happens in it looks like it was written for a movie. It's a little bit different to normal, but I've had a really hard time enjoying entertainment with everything that's going on in Palestine. So I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to share a story that's really like close to my heart and important to me as a person and Muslim, and to raise awareness and teach people about how Muslims actually conquered Palestine, Jerusalem, and what they did with it and the people inside it. So we're actually going to be reacting to a talk by Dr. Roy Cassagranda, an amazing historian and orator. Like, the way he tells the story is fantastic. I recommend you go and watch the full video. It's actually on a Muslim general by the name of Khalid ibn al-Walid, who is also known as Saifullah, which means the sword of God. And he was a general who fought in over 100 wars and won every single one of them. So anyway, I'll shut up and we'll let him educate all of us.
The Romans have largely abandoned it. The Roman military has. But there's enough people manning the walls that you can't get in. So the Arab army is stuck outside trying to figure out how to get inside so they can capture this holy city.
Oh, and by the way, extra context. At this point, Khalid ibn al-Walid takes an army and beats four of Emperor Heraclius's armies to take over Syria, Damascus, and now they're going to Jerusalem, as that has now gotten cut off from the Roman Empire. And the majority of all Roman politicians have left Jerusalem now, so they are going in to claim it or take it over, basically.
The Archbishop of Jerusalem, a man named Safronius, by the way, a Christian Arab, a loyal Roman citizen, indicates he's willing to negotiate, but only with Umar ibn al-Khattab, the Caliph. Well, the Caliph is...
In case you don't know, Caliph or Khalifa is he's the leader of the Muslim world. The word Khalifa just means successor. Because they are following on from the legacy and they are following the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So it's really important to see how they act, because they are the people who know him the best and are known as the best generation in Islam. So we look to their actions as to what we're supposed to do rather than the actions of people today. There is, by the way, there is no Khalifa today because there is no real Islamic state.
All the way back in Mecca, it'll be weeks before he can be sent for and then return. So they come up with a scheme.
This is amazing. It's so funny.
Since Khalid is Umar ibn al-Khattab's first cousin, he actually looks like him. So they pretend Khalid ibn Walid is the Caliph. They meet with Safronius, and while they're talking, somebody had actually met Umar ibn al-Khattab, I'm sorry, had met Khalid ibn Walid, and knew
such a cheeky
that was
plot,
Khalid.
I'm not gonna lie.
And so he tells Safronius, you're being duped, it's not really the Caliph, it's some other dude, it's that general that's been tearing us up. Safronius is outraged. He goes, you lied to me, and he calls off the negotiations.
Now, this is completely beside the point, but just imagine how awkward that would be. You walk into the city and it's like going well, and then somebody's just like, yeah, he's not the person he told us, and then the archbishop who's talking about handing the city over is just like looks at you and you're just like, oops. This was really funny, but I'm so happy it didn't work out, because what happens after this is so beautiful.
For the surrender. So now the Arabs are stuck getting the Caliph. Safronius comes out of the gates weeks later to meet the Caliph because he sees the Caliph's army arrive. And as he's approaching, he sees a man leading a camel at the front of the army. So for the record, the rich Arabs, the Arabs who were good soldiers, didn't usually ride camels. They usually rode horses, Arabians. And for those of you who don't know, Arabians are fast and agile, and they have crazy personality. And so they're perfect for warfare. Camels are a little bit clumsy and slow. They serve a purpose in warfare, but you're better off on an Arabian. In any case, the Arab army is being led by a man leading a camel with a man on the camel. So Safronius, he's got a giant red hat, because he's also a cardinal, right? He's got gold tassels, actual gold, hanging from his hat. He's covered in gold jewelry. He's wearing red robes. He's covered in perfume. He's on a lectica. The lectica was the couch that the Romans would ride, and then they'd have like 4 or 8 men, depending how big it is, carrying it. And then he has 2 men, one on each side, fanning him. Of course, right? That's what Jesus would want from his bishops.
No, that's such a hilarious. The thing is, it's like, just picture that in your head. That is so absurd coming from a Muslim perspective. I find it insane that people in religious positions of power would indulge in stuff like that, you know, like comfort and luxury. But I guess Christianity and the Roman Empire were kind of one in the same, so he would be a high Roman official as well. But this bit serves as like a beautiful contrast between him, the guy who's surrendering the city, and the man who's taking over the world, basically.
That's exactly right. And he's coming out on this lectica being fanned. And he comes up to the guy on the camel, and he says, where's the Caliph? And the guy on the camel does like this. He nods with his head at the guy leading the camel. So Safronius turns to the guy leading the camel and goes, where's the Caliph? And the guy leading the camel says, I'm the Caliph. And Safronius goes, dude, you're dressed in rags. The guy's pants were mended multiple times. His shirt was mended multiple times. And he goes, no, I'm the Caliph. And Safronius goes, you've just conquered Iraq and Syria and all of Palestine minus Jerusalem. How is it you're so poor? And the Caliph goes, well, why would I collect wealth? We're not doing this war because I'm trying to plunder anything. I'm a humble man with humble needs. I just need good meal. And then Safronius goes, why aren't you riding the camel? And Umar goes, that's my servant on the camel, and we take turns so that neither one of us gets exhausted.
If anybody's got like the wrong idea about Islam and they've been watching like anti-Islam shows or hate preachers, the Muslims would never conquest or take over a place for loot or women or any of that stuff. And we believe our reward is in the next life. And I think Umar is the perfect example of that. And the contrast between him and the Archbishop, the man taking over the world, is just dressed in rags. He's letting his servants sit on his camel and leading it because they're taking turns so that neither gets tired. And the Archbishop, who's giving up the city, is sitting on a lectica carried by a bunch of people with gold hanging off him. It's such an amazing and beautiful contrast, and I'm so happy that we have it to learn from. Okay, this is editing Ibraheem from the future. I just found the craziest thing ever. So there's an event that's recorded in history between Umar, this Khalifa we're talking about, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And in it, he finds the Prophet lying on a bed in like an empty room, and that's his room. And the mat that he lies on has left marks on his body. And Umar, and he is a man's man. He starts crying because of the love he has for him. And listen to this. He says, what makes you weep, son of Khattab? Saying to Umar. And Umar responds, why should I not cry that this mat has left marks on your side, and I see little in this cupboard? Caesar and Khusro live among fruits and springs, while you are the messenger of Allah and is chosen, yet this is your cupboard. The Prophet replies, O son of Khattab, are you not pleased that they are for us in the hereafter, for them in the world? And that's literally what just happened. Khusro and Caesar are the leaders of the Persian and Roman empires, and Safronius has just compared him to them because he Umar's taking over the world and he's dressed in rags. While the current leaders of Persia and Rome, while they're being battered by him, are still living in luxury. This comparison is literally what Umar said to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he was alive. And now Safronius is saying this exact same thing to Umar. It's so poetic and poignant that this story could only be written by God himself. This is what I'm saying about the Khalifas. They followed the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's message to a T. They embodied it. That was their life's goal, and you can see it in action here. That's crazy.
At this point, Safronius is like, oh, what? Who just conquered us? What are these, Marxists?
Funny comment.
And so Safronius gets off the lectica because he's shamed off of the thing. And he says, funny. Okay, I want to talk to you about our surrendering the city to you. And the Caliph says, I have an idea. Let's walk to the city.
Okay, if you guys don't know, let me know what you guys think Umar's idea of the surrender terms to the Archbishop would be down in the comment section below before you hear it, okay?
And I'll tell you what I was thinking the terms would be. So we'll start there. And Safronius goes, yes, of course. And as they're walking, Umar ibn al-Khattab says, why don't we do this? All Roman politicians leave Jerusalem. You just go, if you're a politician. So if you're a top bureaucrat, an officer, and you can take anything you can carry. So you can take gold, as long as you can carry it. And Safronius goes, okay, that's reasonable. That's actually more than reasonable. I just assumed you'd enslave them and take their gold. I don't see how anybody would be mad about that. And then what else? And the Caliph goes, oh no, I was thinking that's it. We don't do anything else. And Safronius.
Okay, how many of you guys actually genuinely guessed that? This event is literally like a story specially made to show the contrast between how these people are living and how the Muslims are trying to show the world how to live. Now, like, just keep watching. It's amazing. I'll shut up. I'm sorry. I'm just too excited.
This goes, wait a minute. I am really confused. So when us Romans capture a city, we enslave a segment, we plunder the city, probably a little bit too much raping too. We might even burn some of it just for grins and giggles. And then we declare it to be ours. What about that? And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, no, we're not going to do any of that. No plundering, no raping, no enslaving. We don't do that stuff.
No.
And then Safronius goes, oh, but you're going to seize property in the city. And the Caliph goes, no, we're not going to take anybody's property. We're going to leave the city exactly like it is. The only thing I want to do is eject the Roman politicians with whatever they can carry. And Safronius goes, there's nothing to negotiate. Yeah, we surrender the city this instant.
So this is the beautiful thing about Islamic conquest. There are two purposes of Islamic conquest. They're not in the slightest similar to any other in history. The first purpose is to be able to spread the message of the one true God, Allah, and as Jesus called him, Allah, in his native language of Aramaic, literally just to be able to give people guidance. And the second reason is just as beautiful. It's for people to be able to live in harmony, following people who are living in accordance with the law God has given down to Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and literally just to bring peace on earth, because these guidelines are perfect, and if you follow those, you'll have a perfect life. And I think this is a beautiful example of that. It gets even better.
I don't understand, actually. They walk into the city. Khalid is one of the men following. Amr ibn al-As, all these guys, they're on foot. If they've got their horses with them, they're leading their horses by the reins, right? Because the leadership is on foot. There's no way they're going to ride in. They're walking. And this is a holy city to them because Jesus is holy to them, because the Jews were holy to them. And so they see this.
Yeah, so if you don't know, in the Islamic tradition, we believe that all of these prophets from the Torah and the Bible, the vast majority of them were real prophets to us in Islam, and we believe they were all Muslims because the word Islam is to submit your will to the will of Almighty, the one and only true God, the God that Moses, Jesus, Abraham, Adam, and Muhammad all worshipped and believed in. So all of those prophets are very near and dear to our hearts, and it's why Palestine is such an important place in the hearts of every single Muslim on this planet. We love and revere all of them, peace be upon all of them, and we follow their teachings through the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because their teachings were for their time and their people, and their teachings were lost shortly after they left their people.
As a holy city. Safronius goes, tell me about your religion as they're walking through the streets. And so Umar ibn al-Khattab starts telling him about Islam. Safronius goes, it just sounds like a variation of Christianity. I feel like our religions are shockingly similar.
Well, yeah.
And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, yeah, because they are. I mean, we thought we were doing Judaism 3.0. It never occurred to us that we were going to be received as being so different.
Just to explain the point again, we believe that all the children of Adam have received guidance through a prophet, and the guidance would be to go on the straight path, and every time they veered off that path, God has sent another prophet to bring them back to the path. So, for example, Moses was one of them, David, all of them guys, peace be upon all of them, were sent for that purpose. So was Jesus, or Isa alayhi salam, and Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was the final prophet. And what's special about him is his message is preserved in both physically in writing, since his companions were alive, and also in the minds of millions of Muslims. Now, if you didn't know, there are Muslims who know the whole Quran, like the whole book, back to front in both Arabic and whatever languages they know. And there are millions of Muslims that know that, which means that it is impossible to change, because if somebody's writing it down incorrectly, there's a person standing behind them that knows exactly what they've got wrong or what they've intentionally added. And if somebody is speaking it wrongly, there's usually somebody who knows behind them. So it's impossible to change it or alter it, like has been done with the Bible, for example, where like the story of the adulterous woman was added in.
And he goes, okay, since you've given us such amazing surrender terms, my alarm is going off and I can't turn it off. And it's so embarrassing. It's telling me to put my kids to bed. I should have remembered to turn it off, but it didn't occur to me. He says, you've given us such amazing surrender terms, and because I feel such kinship with your religion, will you do me an honor? Will you come to my church and pray in your Muslim way next to me as I pray in my Christian way? And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, never. And Safronius goes, why? He goes, I'm the Caliph. The first place I pray in Jerusalem is going to become a mosque. The Muslims will take it and they will create a place of worship for Muslims, and you will lose it. And I don't want you to lose your church. And Safronius goes, okay. What if we find an empty piece of Jerusalem and we just pray there? And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, yes, I accept. An empty piece, something that nobody owns. So they go and they find an empty lot.
One thing that was very important to Muslims when they were taking over places and stuff like that was never to impoverish the locals or take what isn't rightfully theirs, because they were conquering for specific reasons, and their reward was not the reward of stealing from those people. It was the reward that they would get from God in the next life.
And they pray. The archbishop in his Christian way, the Caliph in his Muslim way, side by side.
That is so
A
amazing.
mosque
Can you
today,
imagine
that spot, commemorating the first place that the first Muslim Caliph prayed in Jerusalem. He nailed it. He knew what was coming. And he saved the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for Christians.
Isn't that crazy?
Because that's the church Safronius wanted him to pray in.
Wow.
At that point, the Caliph says, I want to see the Temple Mount. And Safronius goes, why? And the Caliph goes, because it's holy. It's holy to everybody. It's holy to Christians, it's holy to Jews, it's holy to Muslims.
Yep.
And Safronius goes, nah, we haven't been treating it as holy to anybody. And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, what do you mean?
This is insane.
So Safronius says, so after we tore down the second temple of Solomon, when we conquered Palestine, we turned the Temple Mount into a garbage dump to punish the Jews. And the Caliph goes, what do you mean? And Safronius goes, yeah, there's like 500 years of refuse on that thing. It's
insane.
Just a garbage dump. And he goes, show me. They walk up to the Temple Mount.
Isn't it insane that he has empty seats in this talk? Like, this talk is so powerful and just like amazing. And, you know, like half the people aren't even there. Whereas you can get people like spewing, like they'll be singing songs that people don't even like understand the lyrics to, and they'll sell out arenas. And this sort of story that's being told in such an amazing way isn't even filling out half a room. Like, isn't that absurd? Oh, man.
And the Caliph can't believe what he's looking at. He falls on his knees and he begins clearing the garbage by his hands. His army sees their leader on his knees clearing garbage, and they run up and they start clearing the garbage themselves. And they clear the garbage off the Temple Mount. The Caliph goes, okay, I want to meet some of the Jews living in Jerusalem. And Safronius goes, there are no Jews in Jerusalem. And the Caliph goes, what do you mean there's no Jews in Jerusalem? The city is holy to the Jews. How could there be no Jews? And he says, well, us Christians, we pretty much murder them every chance we get. We really hate Jews. In fact, in the war we just did against the Persians, the Jews sided with the Persians. And so we murdered 20,000 Jews in Jerusalem and completely purged the city of its remaining Jewish population. And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, no, this is wrong. You can't do this. And so he turns to a convert to Islam, a Jewish convert to Islam, and he says, I need you to find me 80 Jewish families that were willing to volunteer to move to Jerusalem so we can reestablish a Jewish presence in this city. And that's how the Muslims conquered Jerusalem.
And that's how the Muslims conquered Jerusalem. That is such a sick line to end with. That is such a beautiful story. And I'm just so lost for words. I've watched this so many times. Believe it or not, I tried to do this reaction video like 6 times today, and I've been interrupted every time. So I've watched this story like 10 plus times, and it gives me goosebumps every time. And I'm just so like, ugh. I can't articulate myself correctly afterwards because it's so amazing. But anyway, back to the topic. Did you hear the end bit? Ever since Muslims conquered Palestine, they intentionally brought in Jews. Okay, just as I mention it, I get interrupted again. Give us a sec. So I think you can tell from the end of that story that since the start of Islam, we have actually recognized the need and the right of Jews to be in Jerusalem. And that carried on for over 1,000 years. Muslims, Christians, Jews, all living in harmony in the sacred land of Palestine. Anyway, please pray for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, and subscribe for more. Share this with other people you think need to learn this story, I think it's such a poignant tale, and it's literally like it's a story that's been crafted by God to teach us thousands of years later to show humility and respect each other, no matter what our race or even status is. Anyway, I'll see you guys after I get back from Umrah with a normal entertainment recommendation next time. Assalamu alaikum.